technology.
Cool.
What's up, Ben Clarkson?
Not much. Making videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
super busy this quarantine?
It has actually exploded. It's crazy. The amount of people who want me to make them music videos has gone from 5 a year to like 20
Wow.
a year.
Wow.
It's absolutely totally nuts because people can't do like normal jumping up and down in front of a band music videos anymore.
Yeah. I feel like we got you at a good time then, because it was before all this happened that we did the video. And so we kind of lucked out, I guess, with that.
Yeah.
Now it's become in high demand.
Yeah, there's a big DJ outfit, like a big European EDM outfit that was like, could you make us a feature film for our new album? And I'm like, sure, I know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you enjoy getting those kinds of challenges? Like,
absolutely,
yeah. Right.
absolutely. I'm really driven by learning things. Every single time I do a project, I set out a set of constraints for myself, and those are the creative constrictions which decide how I make the thing that I'm making. And so like giant budget, that actually ends up being a constriction. Or like lots of time, that's a constriction because I have to figure out how to work in that.
Sure.
And I just love making things and going through the process of having the thing decide what it is, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like I don't know what I'm making when I first start. Like nobody knows what they're making when they first start making something. They have to hear the accidents, they have to hear the things that they've made, and then respond to their own automatic choices. And then the real challenge is then how do you just not repeat yourself? How do you get somewhere else with the thing that you're doing?
For sure. I think that's a similar track of music. Yeah.
Is that how your creative process tends to work normally? Like, will you have a technique in mind that you like have wanted to try maybe, and like you're like, maybe this can be applied to this project? Or do you generally kind of soak in the material and then like an idea might come into mind? Or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. I try to change how I approach things. I really, when I make music videos, I really like to listen to what my collaborators, the band, the musician wants. Because I really do see it as like a collaborative film. Like you guys provided the soundtrack, and then my constraint is I provide the visuals.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking sound design. And these are all things that I want to do eventually. I want to start like making the sounds of things, because I realize I'm like super over on one side. I've been like working out my right arm.
Yeah.
Are you? It's just like visual.
Are you
for years?
I'm guessing. Are you a musician as well?
Yeah, I've been making. I had to decide what I wanted to do at some point in my life.
Yeah.
And I guess I decided to make art instead of making music. Partially because people started paying me to make art way before I started making money making music. I think the most I ever made was like 500 from one gig. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And then I broke it up for the rest of the band, and I was like, $20.
Yeah. We know the feeling. Trust me. We played. I mean, I don't even know why we're still doing this. Like we played so many gigs for like no money or less money than was promised, or the promoter went bankrupt at the festival and then ditched and skipped town. We've been through everything like that.
We've left with $0 several times.
Yeah. But
vast majority of the time it's for nothing.
Yeah.
But it's fun to play, and that feeling when like someone listens and hears something and then like, oh, what about this? And you're like, I could never have made that on my own. I could never have done that. Like that collaborative aspect of music is something that I'm like, I'm obsessed with, but I also miss, because I don't like that chemistry is also really precious.
Yeah.
Because like I used to have like an incredible band, like the two other great guys when I lived in Winnipeg, and we would just get together and drink. I would come with like a little 6-pack for the three of us, and we would record a song every week. We would just like, from beginning to end, we would just be like, okay, whatever happens, happens, and we make a thing. And we did it for 4 years. And so we had like 70 things that we had made over these years. And then near the end of that experiment, it started to actually produce fruit. And we were like, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
And then I came to Montreal, and I'm just like, you people are terrible. I have no patience to play with you. You don't hear what I'm doing.
Yeah. Is that where you're from? Is Winnipeg originally?
I'm all over the place. Like I lived in the bush for 7-8 years.
The bush? What do you mean bush?
Oh, so in Canada we have this thing called the bush, and it's literally just like the forest, completely untamed.
Like northern Canada, like
like northern
territory,
bush.
Yukon territory.
Like the closest city was 3 hours by car on a 2-lane highway that was not really maintained even by the government.
Wow, it's like life below zero shit.
Yeah. Like like no like plumbing, just out there in the bush, and like it was just a logging camp basically I lived in for a long time. And then from there to like nightmare hellscape that is Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And then from Winnipeg to Montreal, and I'm like, whoa, civilization.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Montreal does seem kind of civilized from my impressions of being there.
Yeah, it's real nice.
Well, I was asking about the music thing, because I feel like there's moments in the video where I've noticed the edits and the like when the buildings start popping up in that one scene, it goes in tandem with the riff that's going on. So I was like, he clearly has a really good ear.
Yeah. The same instinct like a light designer would have to kind of chase the music. Yeah.
Yeah, I play basically everything. I play drums, keyboard. I used to be a very good guitar player. Now I'm like, okay, I'll play chords now when I record by myself. I won't play anything fancy. It's sad to go from being good at something to not being so good at something. So I try to avoid doing it now.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about sort of animation being one arm and music being the other one, because I think that's where we've landed as a band, realizing that we've spent so much time on music and just music, and then you put something out and maybe it doesn't go as far as you think it should or whatever, and sort of realizing, especially now in this day and age of internet and social media and everything, how important like a visual representation of your music is. And we put such a stronger emphasis on that. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because they are somehow two sides of the same coin. Like you need both in order to create a picture.
One message that you're putting out.
Yeah. And I think when we first talked on the phone about this, and your ideas for the video helped to kind of like provide another dimension to the song almost, where going from the context of time from the beginning of the man sitting in front of the bench in front of the house in the woods to like floating out as the sun explodes and the planet ends. We just like love that idea. And I think it's such a cool way to represent the passing of time, and take a song that's sort of just like placed in a relationship based kind of like, you know, almost pop like type of setting, to also this esoteric feeling of waiting for, I don't know, for things to go right, or for the world to kind of get its shit together, which I think is a yeah, which is yeah, which I think is a feeling that we're all feeling right now as we witness this kind of chaos going on. But
yeah, I'm pretty much stuck in that space all the time. Is like my family was like horribly displaced by World War II, and like this sort of mindset of like everything is going wrong has been really beaten into me.
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
So I
try
to like embody that pessimism.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I think that's a good angle though to be aware of like, if like things can change, like not for the better, pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was listening to some podcast, and they had talked about how time is this weird thing, how we always think things are going to get better, because time is like this last thing that we really deal with, which is almost like the divine. Like time is like marching on. It's this cosmic force that's pushing our lives, and we have no effect on it. We have no touch on it. We don't have any spit on the ball for time. And it's like this thing that's just like pushing us off a cliff. And so there's almost this optimism of like, oh, things will get better. Time is on our side. Mm-hmm. Is almost like this absurd mindset that we have to keep from actually dealing with how time is actually working in our lives. And that's a thing I've been trying to keep in mind, because film and music, these are time-based things. They go on through time. So like something that's really important to me in making things is, how does it change? It can't be the same as when it begins, because then why isn't it like a photograph? Something has to change in the video or the song over time. So I really like the idea of linear things. There's repetition, because repetition is also an element of time. But there has to be that twist. There has to be that transformation in it. And I think I really nailed it on the Wait For You video, because there is this repetitive thing that's happening. He continues to be there. There's this rotation, which is like the clock, the stars, just like our cosmic understanding of what time is. But then things are happening while at the same time it's being circular.
Yeah.
How? Sorry, I
was going to ask you, like the way in which you did that, I thought was really clever, with the way the bench spins and the signs keep like changing, especially towards the climax at the end with the water coming up. And is that a technique you've used before at all?
No. I sort of had this idea. So if we could share screens, I actually have like all the files. I can show you guys how I did it.
I remember talking about it when we first spoke over the phone, and how you're excited to use this technique, I believe.
Yeah.
I'll make you the host, and then I think you can share screen.
Okay. Give me all the power.
Are you going to abuse your power?
Of course. That's why you have power. You are the host now. So it's like this 3D environment that I built.
Cool.
And then if I hit the render button, it should give us all of the stuff. Yeah, so everything pops in.
Oh, cool. Colored it.
So you have like the house, you have like these little chainsaw guys who are like cutting down trees, all these little details that go by super fast.
Right.
The house here, there's another like old-timey car, and then all of these get rendered with like lines and stuff.
Wow. I didn't realize you had to kind of make a whole 3D like world behind it in order to make it like a two-dimensional animation.
You don't need to, but it goes a lot faster. So then you can put in the camera, and then this is it.
Oh wow!
Spinning around.
That's awesome.
And then I think I have to go into another view. I have to go to a different layer. Oh, do I only have one layer in this? Oh gosh. Yeah, this is a really complicated file because every single one of these trees is its own thing.
Oh, you
so,
wow.
So I have to like go through this giant list of trees if I want to do anything. It was a really annoying file, so I might go to another. Don't save these. We're gonna go Gymkata here again. We're gonna go remover 3. So this is a little bit later in that sequence. So there's this guy. Here he is.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. So he is himself a 3D object.
Okay.
And so when the camera goes, he sort of spins in place with the camera. So it's all set up around the camera.
Oh, as do the trees too.
Yeah, the trees turn so that they don't look like they're spinning. Because otherwise you see like just the side of them.
You'd see behind them.
Yeah, you would see them like
behind the set piece.
Yeah, you would see them turn like this, and so like all of this stuff has to be paired to the camera, which is going around on a loop here. Whoops, wrong key. So the camera's like flying around this loop here, and the trees are following it, and then there's like these little junk trucks, and then these I made a bunch of these little stumps.
Yeah.
And so basically every single rotation of this, there's a new file that would occur. There's a new thing that would happen until it's absolutely the end. And then I made an entire town set. The town set. So it's all like theater stuff. Like the back of everything isn't there. I had to strip out everything to make it so my computer could handle it because it's actually quite a bit. And it started out with this, with this man. There's this like really hideous 3D model of a man that I got, and then I put a model. I rigged him up so I could pose him, and then I traced him over frame by frame.
Right.
To get an idea of what the angle of that guy sitting on the bench would actually be. And then, yeah, I built a city with like cars and like street lights and all of that in this little maquette.
Dope.
And yeah, this is an idea I had when I first listened to the song of like, okay, how do I get this idea of time happening and like there being a rise and fall of something. And then obviously the city floods.
Yeah.
And it goes into it goes inside this sort of boarded up building. Buildings are like falling over in the background. A lot of these details don't actually come through because I think I made it go a little bit too fast. And then you have all the lyrics popping up here, and then a giant tidal wave sort of rising in the background.
Wow. It's cool to see it this way.
Yeah, a lot of tiny little details.
I was curious about this after the first cut that you sent to us. Is there a specific city that you modeled this after, or is this just kind of generic town?
It's just sort of generic city. So I had all these buildings lying around from another video I made like 6 years ago, and I was like, I can use those. So I just duplicated them and moved them around, and I was like, okay, this is my city. And I guess there's a good amount of Montreal in there with hideous overpasses.
I was thinking, as you were telling your story about living in the bush, going from there to Winnipeg to Montreal, now I almost see that path in this video.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is basically my life trajectory,
Yeah.
included with like the sun exploding and the end of the world occurring.
Yeah.
That's, you know, in the next 5 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We got some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually, if I think about it, if I start to think about all the things I make in context, there's another video I did for the band Stars, which is very similar to this, which is all like, I drove around, I rented a convertible, and I drove around with my friend who's a director of photography, and he just took like these ultra slow motion shots of these buildings as we drove around them in a convertible. And it's basically the exact same thing. It's just like rotating buildings. I have this weird, I love, it's like stoned guy view of like, whoa,
Yeah. Nice.
Cool building, man.
Yeah.
That's 90% of my artistic output.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool building, man.
I love it. Yeah, there's a feeling that I feel like you get going through the center of Los Angeles at night with the buildings lit up. If you go through downtown, it's kind of like that, like stoned or not, like it's just like
it looks like
know.
a set.
Yeah.
Set piece. Like
Yeah.
flop there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. So when you were, so I guess should we transition to, I don't know, do we cover everything here, or should we transition to like, so you're doing an animated series?
I was curious though, was there anything else like unique to this video that you hadn't used before? Like I know you had mentioned the bench rotating, but any sort of color scheme, any
Well, yeah, I've been learning. I'm colorblind. I'm actually pretty badly colorblind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a real hindrance to like being a painter, or I was a failed painter for years until I started making videos. And then I was like, I give up. No, I something I've learned about color is keep it simple, stupid. Is just make some decisions and stick to them. And then you try to figure out when to break your own rules for color. So basically I think I had 5 colors for the whole video, and I just want to keep using those. I also have been really interested in getting that, getting like a low color comic book look, something that looks like, I came at this from the position of it's going to be a graphic novel.
Right. Regarding it's like it's one color, and then if anything, it's like a shadow, like shade of that color.
Not even, just a lot of the colors are black. Like when I think it's only a green, a blue, a white, a gray, and a red.
Oh, wow.
It's for the whole thing. And I was pretty disciplined. There's a couple times I broke a rule. Maybe I added an extra red or 2, but it's really 5 colors for the whole video. And I just tried to discipline myself that it was those 5 things and combinations of those things. So not a lot of different hues. It's all done in a free software, actually. It's all totally free. You can download it right now. It's called Blender.
Cool.
I'm amazed that it's free. I do almost 90% of all my work in it now.
Wow. And
it's a combination of 3D, 2D. You can like do sculpts and stuff. You can make a game in it. I've been thinking about making a game. I made a couple games at one point when I still thought that was a good idea. I used a lot of this combination of 2D and 3D in the video, which is something that I'm getting much more enthralled with, is trying to figure out. Something I'm really obsessed with is how do you make something that looks like a whole studio did it by myself, and learn all the things. I'm obsessed with learning things. I'm obsessed with being able to do everything. To my personal detriment, I'm very bad at working in a team, which has forced me into being incredibly independent and biting off more than I can chew for my entire life and trying to do everything myself. And so I've been trying to like build this way of making things where I don't need other people to make it look like a studio did it. And I think a lot of people don't realize when they see my videos that I do every single thing myself.
Sure.
From painting, design, editing. Half the time I shoot my own videos when I do them with actual cameras. It's a little crazy. And I do a bad job of communicating that too, because I just want to move on and make the next thing.
Yeah, music is kind of going the same way in the sense that it's not enough to just play an instrument now.
Yeah.
You can't just play an instrument and have that be like your full-time job. Like now it's like, okay, you play drums. Can you also, can you edit yourself? Can you record yourself? Do you know how to make videos? Like, do you know how to,
can you run Ableton?
Can you run Ableton? Yeah.
Yeah.
You sing? Yeah. There's so many things that you need to know now to basically have a fighting chance at anybody even noticing. Like you can't just join the band and be a saxophone player.
For me though, like writing music, it's actually, I relate to what you're saying, Ben, is that like sometimes when you have an idea, it's kind of like fully formed in your head and you just like need to be able to communicate it. And now you can, because you can just plug it all out into, I use Logic and, create some sort of fully formed demo before you even present it to your other collaborators. So that way you have like a little more like satisfaction, at least in your own head, about what you were originally trying to get out,
The distance between vision and sound is much shorter now.
Yes, right. Than it ever has been, probably in all, I would guess, in all mediums, whether it's visual art or music or, whatever. Like I back in the day, I read this interview with Quincy Jones, and he was saying like the greatest skill that he ever had, which is probably still a great skill to this day, is just being able to arrange, like being an arranger, and how he could get he could walk into a room, hand everybody the score, and play it. Now you can that's still obviously a great skill, but you could take that score, plug it into a program, and play every instrument yourself if you wanted to. Right. It's like kind of crazy.
You don't need a whole symphony of 75 musicians to get it out. Yeah.
And you don't even need to be able to do it on a keyboard too. Like a lot of these guys just like the EDM guys just draw it.
Right.
They just have like this geometric or visual idea because you get the piano roll and you just are like, okay, this is what you do. Which I'm personally trying to like learn to do that too, is like, how do I come at things, because I took like classical guitar when I was like a little person. And like how these tools, like the tools that we have now, have made all sorts of different things possible. And I was sort of pushed for a long time to sort of reject them as like, oh, it's not really doing it. But I had this, I went like totally bankrupt 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, nah, computers, man. Computers. Just do it with a computer. And like, I haven't made an actual physical drawing for 5 years.
Yeah.
Just everything's on the computer now. Just everything is with people. I've just been trying to lean into it, and it's super interesting to take it seriously and to take all of these different tools seriously and try to like change how I make things according to the tools that I have. I'm really into this idea.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
I think
and I remember you were mentioning that, like when we came across paths with you at first, and you were saying that you had just recently given yourself permission to be an animator again.
Yeah, that took a long time. It took a long time because I was told, like, Canada has this weird government system to give artists money, and for a while I was part of it, and they would give me money to like just draw pictures. And now they wouldn't consider me an artist because of how I make things.
Weird.
Yeah, so like how I make art, how I work with other people, how I do contracts, how I make it digitally is not really considered art. And so it took me a long time to say like, oh, I can still consider myself an artist outside of that classification. And my entire education was, you know, you have to make a work on paper and sell it to like a real estate developer. And that's what being a good artist is.
So you think it's just that it's an antiquated sort of set of rules that maybe are not updated to the 21st century, or is it like, I don't know, just their a weird opinion, or like?
I think there's a lot of factors into it. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I could go on. I could like give a seminar. But I think a lot about it is art is supposed to be like special, and like let's look at like Mozart and like the lute player at the tavern in like the 16th century. I don't actually know when Mozart was alive. The vast majority of people were just listening to like drinking songs, and a very small percent of people were listening to like Mozart's stuff. Mozart's the person we remember, that's art, but the vast majority of people participated in the lewd drinking song. Those lewd drinking song guys were probably super talented, played all day, understood music in an incredible way, but they aren't part of the story.
Right.
And something that I'm really trying to get into is I was taught to make stuff for the court, and now I'm like, I want to make drinking songs.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to make like lewd cartoons. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also like an interesting thing, because you have skills in hand drawing, right? Obviously, that you combine into this, and I think like that's something that I find a parallel with aesthetically with like this band, is that we know how to play instruments and we do all of that, but we always combine it with, we're always looking for new tools to use to like help us further a sound we have in our head, or you know, whatever it is.
Move past the frame that we built previously.
Yeah, and if those tools are available, why not use them? I think there is a puritanical aspect to like music and art that a lot of people uphold, that, you know,
well, and also art and technology.
Like you're not allowed to use certain technology because that's cheating, or you know, but that really excludes a lot of people. That like, if that were the case, you know, then like, I don't know, hip hop wouldn't exist, because they're sampling, right? Or like using drum machines. Like I remember like seeing bumper stickers like back, this was a while ago, this is probably the early 2000s, but it was like drum machines have no soul or whatever.
If only they knew it was coming.
Yeah, and that was like the early 2000s, like a bunch of guys being like, oh, so fuck that, if they can't play the real drums and they're not, you know, right. That's like, well, I don't know, man, like you know, it's like your car, that car probably died, and so did that drum machine sticker, you know. So I think that
real men use wagons.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting that you know, how in Canada, I guess, a bureaucracy determines what art is, and
exactly a bureaucracy of people who are already inside the system. And this is something that I find really frustrating, because I am, once again, like radically independent, and I'm also really bad at not working. So my wife is a very social person, and she understands how to like she's my city councilor is my wife. Like, she's been elected, she's in charge of things. And she keeps saying, like, how you get there is you go to the parties and you make friends with the guys in positions, and then they give you the jobs. And I'm like, but then I have to leave the studio.
Yeah, you're just like standing begrudgingly in a corner at a party, just like wishing you were
Yeah, like
not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't work for me.
yeah, it is something that I'm trying to learn how to do, but there's always a part of me that says like I could be making funny cartoons on the internet while I'm doing this instead of doing this.
Right. Better use of your time.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that stubbornness, you know. It's the same with music, of just kind of a never ending. There's been multiple occasions in my life, and I'm sure your life and Aaron's life as well, where you're sitting there working some job or something, and you're like, God damn it, I hate this. Like, I should be making music. I could be making music right now. It sucks. So yeah, I think
you can always be doing your drum rudiments. You can always be doing your drum rudiments.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, it's like Evan said at the top, though. We feel really lucky to have caught you like in this time, because, you know, obviously, I think last time we were on the phone, you were discussing how you got a lot of big things coming up, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm trying to do some really big things right now. I have been working on a animated TV show for about 3 or 4 years by myself. I tried to bring it to the networks, and it didn't really seem like a fit, but it's something I really, really believe in. So I'm actually trying to kickstart it right now.
Cool. Can you tell us about it? Or is
the show is, I describe it as a cross between the Itchy and Scratchy Show, RoboCop, and The Wire.
Oh, wow.
So it's a parody of cop shows. And it's a very mean parody of cop shows. It's a very mean parody of cops. And it's set in this world of Bubble City. And Bubble City is this perfect, absolutely pristine utopia where everybody's super rich. There's no discrimination, no racism. People are totally free. Everyone is equal for the most part. The only problem is outside of the bubble, in the uninhabited zone where the majority of people live. And the uninhabited zone is populated by mutants who are twisted by the absolute environmental apocalypse. And inside the bubble, no crime. No need for police. It's mostly just banks and condo developers. Outside of the bubble, it's just a rotten cul-de-sac of crime.
Is this about
Yeah, it's I started making it like 3 or 4 years ago, and then all the things started happening much more regularly.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, now's the time for my show. And yeah, so it follows 2 police officers doing their beat in the uninhabited zone, and they're literal monsters doing horrible things. But you like them because the camera follows them. And like it's really a satire on who we're supposed to identify with, who's telling the story.
Sure.
How's it participating?
Dualities between good and evil, and
and how simplified worldviews of all of these big issues have become. I'm actually not going to use the term both sides, but I think that people get twisted into ways where someone is right, someone is wrong, so much that we lose track of some of the big picture stuff. Like something I like to come back. There's a really great book, Sapiens, and where it tells the story of human beings, really, and like the storytellers have like an enormous control over how we do things. But like we now live on this planet where human beings control every aspect of life, and almost now philosophy is philosophy and just like basic questions like how should we live, who are we, what is the nature of being a human like what is a human being's nature. These are like big like philosophy school questions, but they're actually going to be like how we think about these questions decide how we're going to go about organizing the nature of the planet going forward, which are like mind-blowing ideas. And how do we process ideas like this? We have to do it through storytelling. And I think that the best way to do it that's non-threatening is through like cartoons.
Yeah.
Because there's a distance, there's like an ability to like ha 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 ha, but then sort of think about it. And so I want to so that's where The Wire comes in a little bit in the description. Like I want it to be Itchy and Scratchy meets The Wire, where there's like really big crap happening, but you're still just watching a cartoon with an axe chase another cartoon.
Right.
Something that has this deniability where you can laugh, but then still be like, shit.
Yeah, right. Subversive enough.
It's
I want to make something that's super subversive, because if we actually look back in history, the art that was being made was so much, for lack of a better term, edgier. Like what was being said in the 60s and the 70s. I have a great book. There was a political magazine called The Realist.
Oh yeah.
Back in the 60s and the 70s. And I have the collection of the political cartoons. And they are offensive. Like it's crazy the shit that was being published. And that stuff is we have definitely narrowed the space of what is acceptable to talk about. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of people are now treated with a lot more respect than they used to be, and are given a lot more rights and freedoms than they used to be. And that's excellent. That's a good thing. But also a lot of conversations about like, should we destroy the planet? It has been actually removed from what we're allowed to talk about. And I wanted to make at least some sort of anarchic space. And that's sort of a metaphor in the show as well. There's this bubble where everything is perfect, but the space of what can actually happen in it is very narrow. And then there's this like crazy anarchic space where people take all sorts of, like some people are rats. Some people are like clouds with ninja legs, the ninjas for legs. Like just anything can happen out there, but it's constantly, these forces inside the bubble are trying to always stamp it down. There's a lot of levels of like metaphor to it. It's also the land of the Uz, the uninhabited zone, like the land of Oz. And then at the center, there's this emerald city of the bubble. And like, I'm always trying to like wrap it up even more. So I'm even more personally confused into what I'm saying and what I'm trying to do with it. But try to create a space that is so anarchic that we could actually make some sort of conversational progress with it, if that's even possible nowadays.
Yeah.
Because I think that we might have progressed to a point in how we talk about big problems or big issues that we can't make progress. We'd have to go backwards. We'd have to go back to where we made a decision to do what we're doing now. And so I really am sort of obsessed with like 70s animation and like Ralph Bakshi and like really independent, stupid, horrifying stuff. And is there space for that anymore? And I don't know. It's up to the people who give to the Kickstarter if I get to do it or not.
Sure.
If I fail, I'll do another one. I'll keep trying.
Where can people find the Kickstarter link?
So you can just search Ben Clarkson Kickstarter and that'll come up. Or Justice Warriors. It's called Justice Warriors, which makes me laugh, but I don't know if it makes everyone else laugh. Just search. I think you can honestly just search Justice Warriors. It'll be the first thing.
We can just provide the link too to fans that want to find you.
Yeah. There's a link. Go to the link. Click the link. Give me all of your money. No, give responsibly and share.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Cool. Well, thanks for rapping with us, man. It's it's a huge honor to be like working with you, and we wish you the best of luck with the new endeavor.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. Anytime.
Excellent. Cool.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. I think we got what we need.
Okay, great. I will send you gigabytes of files.
Yeah.
Cool. Right on.
Great.
Awesome, dude. Well, yeah, it's awfully hot in here, so I'm kind of eager to get.
Go eat ice cream and bathe in ice.
I was just thinking, maybe a milkshake somewhere sounds good.
Does it get hot? Is it hot in Montreal? Does it get hot there in the summer?
Oh my God, people have been dying. It's insane. Like I at my old apartment, like the year that my daughter was born, I was on the second floor, and it got so hot. We were going to a cabin with my sister. I walked out literally in this shirt, and in the time it took for me to bring the cooler to the car and then come back into my apartment, I had soaked through this shirt.
The humidity thing. Yeah.
Well, and it's just like brutal. Like I say, people are dying, but it's actually a problem in the city. Is like unattended elderly people are just like dropping like flies, and like the rain too has also been crazy. Like I just bought this place, and the basement flooded, and just not because of anybody's fault, but because the sewers. I've never seen this before in my life. Like the sewer grate was like being pushed up off the sewer because of the amount of water coming up. Like it's just unbelievable what's happening in Montreal, and it's basically you can't work for a month of the year unless you have AC. And I didn't get AC thinking I've never had AC. I don't need AC.
And you're in there with all the computers heating the room up even more. So
yep.
Well, this is it's interesting because it's true here too in LA. On the we live kind of on the west side in Culver City, Palms area, and like everybody over here says they never needed air conditioning for people who've been here for a long time because it naturally just stays cooler, but just the temperature has just gradually gotten warmer and warmer every summer to the point where it was, I think, I want to say when we first moved here a couple of years ago, people were like getting air conditioners for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I saw Death Valley too. And the LA Times made an article. Death Valley hit 130 degrees in the last 48 hours, which hasn't happened in over a century.
Yeah.
So
I read an article in the Asia Times. I actually do a lot of activism work on climate change because once I had my daughter, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
The entire Middle East, like 1 billion people, it's going to be uninhabitable by 2050.
Wow.
The Asia Times was reporting. Like it's nuts. Canada's warming at a rate of about 3 to 4 degrees right now. Like it's gone up about 2.5 degrees already in Canada.
Yeah.
Wow. Like we're not going to have ice in the Arctic really soon, which is the only thing that keeps this place cool up here in the winter.
So like that clearly like made it into this video too.
Yeah, it makes it into everything I do.
Yeah. I think that's something that I feel too. I am often I have such a hard time writing music because I feel like the personal is so connected to the broader political or whatever, you know, and somehow it always makes it into the music is just some hint at I don't know, a existential sense of impending doom or something, you know, sometimes that you're fighting against, or I don't know, kind of like income inequality and class struggle and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Something I feel like everybody is feeling, but they can't necessarily. It's happening in everybody's life individually, in one way or another, but maybe we can't always articulate it, and so it's but like this is interesting because that stuff, climate change is happening like every day. You step outside in your neighborhood, You know, and yet it's not really, it's still like, I mean, politicians are way behind on this shit. Like,
well, because
it's not an emergency. It's like to anybody. And we even have an entire party who just denies that it's even happening. And
well, you have two parties that deny that.
I know, right? Yes, exactly. To be more accurate, and like, the people that acknowledge its existence are deemed radical or whatever, and it's just upsetting because that's like a 1970s view. Like, it's so behind.
Well, the last time we had any chance of doing anything about it, I'm very pessimistic about this. I think the only thing that's going to happen on climate change, it will only happen when how this global system is organized now, that climate change makes it impossible.
Right.
And
that's how we are. That's human nature. Like,
well, yeah. I think that's I think that there's a logic too, because you can always just say like, okay, we'll sacrifice this country, we'll sacrifice those people, as long as because the people who make the decisions about the system are most insulated from the excesses and the contradictions of the system. So I have some pretty radical views about this. Like, I think the time for people to get really radical was about 30 years ago. So I don't think you can actually be too extreme on this subject matter.
Right.
Most people, like, if I actually articulated my views, people would think that I'm a crazy person. And so I don't really articulate my views. Because you can't really, like, and that's why I want to make the show too, because I want to make the show about a space where you can't, where inside this bubble, you can't even point out basic facts, because it would threaten the continued activities of the bubble. And like, the reason it's called the bubble, it used to be called Dome City, but then I was like, oh, the bubble, like an economic bubble. That's funny. That's really funny. Yeah. And you have to protect the bubble at any time, or the psychological bubble. Like, once again, wrapping up all these things into like this bow that you don't really know what it means.
Yeah. I think about, like, I mean, here in the U.S., like, there's a political bubble too, you know, like you know, Congress only meets for, I don't remember how many, it was 27 weeks a year or something. And like, the world is on fire, you know, and people are going broke and getting evicted right now. It is like absolute hell happening, and economic hell. And like, there's a pandemic, and yet people are just like, oh, I'm going to go back out on vacation. You know, we'll wait for this bill to pass another time. We'll come back. We just can't agree on it. I don't know.
I'm sorry to sound like a radical person, but that's the government working as it's supposed to operate. Like, Jeff Bezos made like $78 billion. Everything's working perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I was trying to explain this to my mother-in-law the other day. Like, we don't have governments for the people. We have governments for the owners, the people who own this. Because like, when I go out and I buy an ice cream, I'm making a rich person richer. When I pay my taxes, I make a rich person richer. When I do anything, I make a rich person richer. The system is not set up for me. It's set up for me to make a rich person richer. And unless we decide that we don't want to organize the world where that's possible, which goes against some of the things that we think are natural, normal, and good, we're not going to have the changes that need to happen to prevent disaster. And I think that's the thing that I wrestle with, is things that you think are normal, natural, and unstated might actually be the thing that causes over there the problem.
Mm-hmm. The butterfly.
It's sort of like it's like there's a crisis in your community over the interpretation of the Bible over communion. but you never question that there might not be a God.
Mm.
Right? Like there's this social rift that's forming, and people are very angry, and like the 7 Years' War, which lasted for like 29 years.
Right, but the other option, maybe not.
There's all other options. There's all these other ways of being people together, but those are not on the table because it's never. I don't want to say that it's never framed, because that gives, I think, too much responsibility to other people for our own beliefs. But we have not, as a species, examined, like Carl Sagan talked about, like we have this evolutionary baggage. And for a while in my life, I thought that was profound. And then I was like, that's garbage. I'm going to read Marx. And then I come back to Carl Sagan. I'm like, yeah, we just have a bunch of baggage that we're not dealing with. And it's going to lead to massive catastrophe. And I don't see another way, because the last off-ramp was Bernie, I think. And I think that was a little late.
Well, it just like kind of goes to, it's a testament to the fact that he literally has been saying the same thing for his whole career, and only just now, really, like even in 2016, we were like, "What? Look at this crazy guy!" And then, like, when it turns out that like millions of people are like, "Yeah, no, that's what I'm going through. I know we should get behind that." Then gradually, like the powers that be are like, "Well, you can kind of come into the party and maybe you can say something about what you want," and and that's it.
We won't do
it.
As long
as stay within these borders. Like,
it's weird. It's and it sucks that hopefully there'll be more younger politicians, our generation and younger or whatever, that are more in reality about what's going on and the urgency of it.
I'm not optimistic about that, to be perfectly honest. I think that a young politician, because it also comes down to resources.
Yes, right.
You will get the resources to run when you parrot the line of the needs of the people who own the system. So Ben Shapiro is the future, because he's the one with the resources to project. Like, some guy gave him $300,000 just for Facebook promotion.
Wow.
Like no human being. And then also the people who have a different point of view, there are some fundamental things that are a problem, which is like a cohesive idea of how things are going to work. Because the second you start, and I'm not saying like, capitalism works, man, because it obviously doesn't, because it's going to lead to the destruction of the biosphere of the planet. Right. But the second you start actually pointing out specifics of how things are going to work, people turn on you. And they're like, well, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Right. The reality is just too scary for people to really even entertain. Yeah.
Because change is terrifying. And every single time that there has been a change in history, it has been terrifying, and from a certain lens, a disaster.
Yeah.
Every single time we've done that, like the last time people were really excited about a different way of organizing life, it led to probably one of the greatest ethical disasters of the 20th century, which was the Soviet Union.
Yeah, right.
So the problem is, like, basically history demands that we try to do something, but it could be a massive disaster. And so the inertia is against any action. There's a really great filmmaker I highly recommend. His name is Adam Curtis. He makes these unbelievable documentaries about the 20th century. He's the artist in residence at the BBC, and he made like a 3-hour film called All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace, about this idea of how technology spontaneously was going to organize us into a perfect society, and the history of that idea, and how it's basically brought us to, like, basically the beginning of computers to where we are today, and the social effects of computers and the ideas of the people who drove those social effects. And then he has one called Hypernormalization, which is a 3-hour film.
I saw that on YouTube. Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. It's incredible. He has another one about just the history of Afghanistan from basically the founding of the state to today. And it's like an abstract art film. It's incredible. It's called Bitter Lake. I highly recommend it. And there's so many interviews with him basically saying, like, we have to get over our fear of doing something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to do that.
When Hypernormalization came out, I shared it with so many people, and they're like, well, what's it about? And it was just kind of like, everything.
Yeah.
About everything.
It's about the thing we're in. It's about this momentum that we're on a train, and we don't think we're moving because we don't have any perspective on the fact that we're on a train. And it's going to go flying off a cliff.
Yep. Yeah.
Like September is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, hang in there, everybody.
Well, and we don't know. Like, we absolutely don't know. Like, nobody knows anything. All the rules seem to be off.
Yeah. I think there's the notion here right now that's a little scary that like it's not just that we need to get Trump out of office. There's a illusion that we can return to quote unquote normal, but
make America great again.
Well, yes, right, but that's like besides yes.
No, but that's what Biden's running on. Biden is running on making America great.
Right.
You're right. Again,
like Trump is somehow still running as the outsider candidate, and he's president.
Right.
Yeah. Right. That's true. It's a good point. But like, so there's that idea that we just have to get things working as they were, and a president who's not so mean.
Yeah.
And it'll work out. But it's not. That's what's a little scary is that even if that happens, let's say we get Biden and Harris in there, like some things will stop some harm from happening for sure, like some I think, but it will also continue to avoid this bigger conversation.
It skirts the real issue,
which a lot of people would be happy about. So it's tricky.
There will definitely be a giant bubble.
Yeah.
Giant bubble inflated by Biden.
Home city, if you will.
Yeah.
There will be a giant interior bubble of like mega wealth that will pop again. And it will continue happening until conditions to create wealth disappear.
Yeah. Totally. All right. I think we got there.
That's basically the best pitch for my show that I could ever do. It's me giving that and then laughing hysterically. That's what I want to do for 11 minutes at a time.
Cool. Well,
cool. We appreciate the expose on it, and we'll look forward to checking it out.
We'll see. I'm actually, to be totally frank, I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic about it getting made, and I'll make something else after. But because somebody gave like $13,000 the first day, which is nuts, and that's why the numbers look so good on it. But then it's just been like a grind to like get to where I am now, and like the trend looks like this. It looks up and then horizontal, basically.
Yeah, right.
And I need it to be like much more dynamic.
Sure.
And so it's fine. It was an experiment to see if that could happen, but I don't want to get any, like, I would have to raise $18,000 by the end of the week to stay on target.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe that's not possible.
Yeah.
Maybe the world doesn't work the way I want it to.
I think everybody right now is going through the same thing and just managing expectations.
Yeah. Absolutely. But, I'm putting, one of my major issues as a human being is putting myself out there and saying, I'm a special person that should do a thing.
Yeah.
Because I sort of thought for a long time that it would come, someone would just be like, oh, wow, you're great. Here's an opportunity. And I'm really realizing that that's never going to happen. That I really need to go like be a weirdo out in public and like be a character that people somehow have a parasocial relationship with. And all of this is a disgusting idea to me. But if it's going to let me make a piece of art, that's really what I want to do.
I think
That's the spirit. Yeah.
That's it.
What else do we have?
Yeah.
Really nothing.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
God is dead. And
yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that's the whole thing with music right now as well, of just having to do so many other things to just keep people's attention. It's not just, you can't just make a great song and hope that the right people find it and put it on a bigger pedestal or a bigger platform. It's just, you have to, like you said, you create a parasocial relationship with an audience so they get to know you.
Yeah.
And then it's like your whole essence needs to be on display, not just like your work.
It's building trust between you and the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone who was actually really good at this very early on was Weezer. Was really good at this in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They would like crowdsource the album, the track listing. They shared all their demos and just said to their forums, like, decide what's on the record.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm always amazed that people still listen to them because they're so bad now. But somehow they have like this massive dedicated cult following.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
We actually played in a Weezer tribute project.
But we only played
it was 4 shows.
we only played the Blue album and Pinkerton.
Yeah, that was the rule.
The good material.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really weird how they keep going. I'll hear on the radio in the car like the new Weezer track. I'm like,
Yeah. It was kind of fun to be at Coachella last year and see them because they played like it was like a sunset set, and like I would say it was like a pocket of probably a few thousand like 35 to 50-year-olds, and then surrounded by like the candy raver type of like 16 to 20-year-olds that just had no idea who this band was, and they'd walk by and kind of like check it out and just be like and then they would just mosey on into like the into the EDM tent. And yeah, it was interesting to see that as somebody who was into Weezer as a child.
Yeah, but somehow they're still selling huge amounts of records too.
Oh yeah,
like there's something to be said about having psychopathic fans.
Yeah.
The real question is, how do you cultivate psychopathic fans?
Right.
Yeah.
Got to cater to the psychopaths.
Yeah, the psychopath market is booming now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It certainly is.
Okay. I'm gonna go do I actually have so much work to do. I'm going to cry.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I gotta go. But this has been lovely, guys. Thanks.
Yeah,
and like, thank you so much, because like any publicity is super helpful.
And this is active now. How long is it going to be running for?
The campaign.
Till September 11th.
Oh, great. Oh, nice.
That's my hilarious end date for the.
Like that. Yeah. Something will happen.
Something will happen. I once made an art website when I was an artist called September 11th for 10years.com. And it was the events of September 11th in ultra slow motion so that it would last for 10 years.
Whoa.
Oh my God. Wow.
And then I was like, why am I doing this? And then I stopped making conceptual art for online galleries, and I started making animation because it pays a whole fuckable lot.
Much more lucrative. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my other story. I'm going to send you guys all the files right away because otherwise I'll forget.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Cool.
Stay cool. Go swim.
On it. Yeah.
For sure. See you, man.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.